There's a new book out, which shows how members of the Trump administration were so shaken by what happened on January 6th that they decided to take unprecedented action in order to prevent the former president from possibly blowing up the United States. I'm not kidding. This is wow, this is some stuff. So now, according to a new book by journalist Bob Woodward and veteran Washington Post reporter Robert Costa, and in excerpts, they wrote about how Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley went around behind everybody's back and ensured that Trump was not going to be able to launch a nuclear strike or carry out a military attack following January 6th. Milley had told the senior staff, quote, "You never know what the president's trigger point is." Well, to be fair, President Trump, former President Trump, is easily triggered. Big surprise. And especially triggered after losing the election. But consider this, okay? So the people around him had such little faith or trust that Trump would honor the election and actually ensure a peaceful transfer of power that this guy decided to take contingencies because they believed that he was dangerous. Woodward and Costa wrote that Milley feared that Trump would, quote, go rogue and was certain that Trump had gone into serious mental decline in the aftermath of the election. In response, Milley took extraordinary action, called a secret meeting in his Pentagon office on January 8th to review the process for military action, including launching nuclear weapons. The fact that they're even discussing this is like, that's scary. That's super scary. CNN also reported this Tuesday afternoon, speaking to senior military officials in charge of the National Military Command Center. The Pentagon's war room, Milley instructed them to not take orders from anyone unless he was involved. Milley reportedly told the officers, no matter what you're told, you do the procedure, you do the process. I am part of that procedure, before going around the room, looking each of them in the eye and asking if they understood. Wow. That's serious. That's some serious stuff. We've never heard anything about this about any other president. Ronald Reagan literally had Alzheimer's. Like, that's about as cognitively, impaired as you can get. And we didn't have to worry about him doing a nuclear strike. So understand that puts Trump in a different level. Okay? His brain, the big brain, tremendous brain. No, he's a sociopath. He doesn't care about other people, okay? He says that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose any followers, and then went on to lead an insurrection. And it's true. It's true. Again, this is why people are disturbed. This is why people are worried. I mean, this guy is like, my button is is so big. It's bigger than yours. I have the biggest button. When he was talking with North Korea. I mean, you're kidding me. Why don't we just nuke the hurricane? Let's nuke the hurricane. Why can't we do that? What do you want, radioactive Sharknado? He's not a mentally sound person. The guy calls himself a very stable genius, and by the way, he did tweet this. My two greatest assets have been mental stability and like being really smart. Who says things like that? Nobody says that. If you have to brag about your mental stability, chances are you are not stable. And you never were. If I walked up to somebody and I said, you know what? My greatest asset is being really mentally stable. They would back away slowly. You know why? Because it's insane. It's insane. And think about it this way. You say something like, I'm very well known for not murdering people and storing them in my basement. Well, then what are you going to think? We're going to think this guy kills people and stores them in his basement. So yes, I do believe people were legitimately concerned that Trump would not only get us into a war, thankfully he did not, likely because, of course, you had people that were watching him, and also because he's not very smart. Again, mental decline. You say something to him, and he forgets 5 minutes later. You want him to do something, be the last person in the room. But make sure you make it seem like it's his idea. This is how you deal with somebody whose brain is broken, not functional. The guy's lost touch with reality. Does that make him dangerous? Absolutely, he could be. Thankfully, though, he's more incompetent than anything else. That doesn't mean he's not dangerous, but it's balanced out by his incompetence. One more thing, which kind of speaks to Trump's motivations here. So now, in another part of the book, Woodward and Costa do talk about a tense encounter between Trump and Pence on January 5th, where, of course, Trump had been continuing his pressure campaign to try to get Mike Pence to not certify the election, which, again, that doesn't actually mean anything. It's a ceremonial role. It doesn't actually mean that Biden didn't win the election. It's process. That's it. So, Mike Pence he could say, no, I'm not going to do it. And the election would still be certified. But anyway, here's the conversation, as alleged. Well, if these people say you had the power, wouldn't you want to? I wouldn't want any one person to have that authority, the vice president replied. But wouldn't it be almost cool to have that power? No, Pence insisted. I've done everything I could and then some to find a way around this. It's simply not possible. So now look, right there, I don't like Mike Pence. I'm not a fan of Mike. Okay? But if this is true, pretty damning. And the other thing I hate is that it makes Mike Pence actually kind of look like that he cares about democracy. Weird. I also hate that. Apparently, he draws the line at treason, even though he was very, very loyal to Trump. But hey, the bar is low. So it is a low bar, and he surpassed that bar. Wow. So his response from Trump was, let me just read it. No, 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 Trump reportedly shouted. You don't understand, Mike. You could do this. I don't want to be your friend anymore if you don't do this. Oh my God, he's a 5-year-old. I mean, I've said it before, he's a child, but almost like in a joking way. It's like he throws fits like a kid, but no, literally that's what a child would say. I don't want to be your friend anymore, Mike. You're treason for me, or I won't like you anymore. Oh my God. Sad baby. It's so, oh my God. And this continued, by the way, the next morning when Trump tried to convince Pence again. He said, if you don't do it, I picked the wrong man 4 years ago. You're going to wimp out. So now, again, you're talking about this guy who's an overgrown man baby throwing a temper tantrum. And that's what you expect with Trump. But here's where it gets dangerous. Okay? Where it just goes from incompetence to a real danger for the country. Because during his rally on January 6th, here's what he said about Mike. He said, Mike Pence, I hope you're going to stand up for the good of our Constitution and for the good of our country. And if you're not, I'm going to be very disappointed in you. All right. So that right there was to his followers. That was in public in front of the crowd. On January 6th, that was that same crowd that went into the Capitol building and started, what do you know, going after politicians that disagreed with the election, that disagreed with Trump, Democrats, and, of course, Mike Pence. So now, also, we've learned that, of course, there's evidence of when Trump learned that Mike Pence was in danger, thanks to, I guess, messages from Tommy Tuberville. He tweeted this. He said, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution. USA demands the truth. This was after they had broken through the barricades. So, and that led, of course, to a chance of hang Mike Pence, which I guarantee something bad would have happened had they gotten their hands on Mike Pence. that mob was minutes away from him at times. And so understand that this is an example of stochastic terrorism. This is what makes Trump dangerous. His hold over other people. Himself, he's a blithering buffoon. But the things that he says, people actually, they actually listen to him, and they actually think, oh no, this guy's a genius, he's nailed it. Absolutely, I should absolutely do that. This is less about him pushing the nuclear button and more about, I mean, what was his nuclear button? His biggest weapon was firing off a tweet to his fans. Now, thankfully, he can no longer do that. And that's why, of course, deplatforming in some cases works. Because if you are inciting people to violence, that is not free speech. That is incitement. And so understand, though, that his hold over other people and what he can get people to do has always been the true danger of Donald Trump. Those people that he's inspired to do acts of violence on his behalf or acts of insurrection and other things. And so that's the true danger. And look, we have to continue to watch out for that. If someone like Trump can inspire people, imagine what somebody more competent could do. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.